Hello.
WAMM. All right.
Welcome to WAMM, the podcast where we talk about stuff and things.
Oh.
Thanks.
Hello, hello.
Welcome back.
Howdy.
Will here. Matt here.
Marcus there.
And I'm your special guest, Riki.
Oh,
AKA
Riki.
the hobo from the bridge.
Welcome, guys.
Hey, I was promised a sandwich and
Icky,
a shower.
Ricky.
In exchange for a hand job. You haven't cashed in yet.
I mean, first things first, my friend.
First things first, get on your knees. You thought we brought you here for your opinions? No.
Did you guys have a good week?
I did.
It was long, but it was good. You know, just
That's what she said.
I could do
good.
without the
She's never said it to me.
apocalyptic rain yesterday.
yeah.
If you're working inside, it's one thing.
We shouldn't call it apocalyptic rain. I mean, I think North Carolina got it worse.
Whatever. I don't care about other states. This is not This was hard for me.
I don't even know. They don't even go here.
Although I will say, I've been in North Carolina one time. It's easily one of the best places I've ever been. So
A lot of
I
people
don't
say
wanna see
that.
it destroyed.
Who's been to North Carolina here? Show of, I guess, words, because hands won't correlate.
I've never been to North Carolina.
No. Marcus, no.
I've been to the
Will,
East
no.
Coast,
Matt,
but I
no.
haven't been to...
Just you.
I've been to
So-
North and South Carolina.
You shut up and you don't give us your opinion.
Okay.
Jesus.
Give us your opinion in
Glad
a
to
minute.
be a part of the
In a-
podcast, guys.
in your
Welcome.
opinion.
Welcome to WAMM, sir.
But before you
Welcome to WAMM. Shut up.
before you taint people's idea, I want to hear what's your idea of North Carolina?
They
What's
have
your preconceived notion of
They have
North
a good
Carolina?
football team.
That's
And they were a little racist because they allow Nazis to march.
that's classy. What about you, Matt? What's
Yeah,
your,
that's
if you
nice.
think in North Carolina, if you're gonna go there, you're driving down the street.
But I
What
don't
do
know
you
if
think
is that North Carolina or
is
South Carolina?
South Carolina.
Well, my dad was
Charlottesville?
stationed in North Carolina way back when, so.
So you imagine it
Yeah.
all being an army base?
Yeah, exactly. I picture the whole entire state.
The entire
one
state
army base.
is one army.
That's it.
Yeah, I've never been, but both of the Carolinas, like when I think about them, I just imagine that it's a massive trailer park. But when I hear people who've gone there, they say widely otherwise.
I've been through both. Many years ago, my wife and I, because we're both huge Harry Potter fanatics, basically,
Nothing in Harry Potter happens in North Carolina.
I'm getting to it. You don't remember that part where the Weasleys originated in North Carolina?
Where
and then
the
they
flying car they
transplanted
took came from
North Carolina. Yeah.
North Carolina.
We went to the opening of the Wizarding World and so we did a road trip from Wisconsin, where we lived at the time, all the way down to Florida, and we hit like all these places in between, and we went through the Carolinas. And initially, North Carolina wasn't really on, like we were just kind of going to go through there, but her dad was stationed there in the Army years ago and was like, "You'll love it. You got
With your dad? Maybe they
What
have
are the
the train
odds?
duty together.
And so we're like, all right, we'll check it out. And a book series that I really love takes place in North Carolina. And we're like, oh, we should go check out.
Twilight.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That's Forks, Washington, bro.
My bad.
Gross.
Oh, right.
City and all.
We didn't bring
So
you
we're
here to
like-
talk about Twilight.
Well, I guess I'm gonna leave then. Sorry, guys. It's been fun. So we went through there, and it was really cool. They have like this whole stretch. It's like the Kitty Hawk area, and it's like all these like really just cool ass beach houses that literally look like the borough. Like they're just these big, like built up, tall on the beach, like crazy beach houses.
It's a borough.
That's
Like,
what the name
the
of the
Weasley's
Weasley's house is in the Harry Potter
In the
movies.
Harry Potter movies.
Ah.
Yeah.
Hey, so again, in my mind, then I'm thinking like Ready Player One, where like in the borough, it's a bunch of stacked buildings, like on rooms on top of each other.
And that's
In Ready
kinda
Player
what-
One, it's a bunch of trailer parks stacked on top of each
No,
other.
it was actually.
So we're back
the
on track.
areas that we went through. I mean, we went through some stretches where there wasn't a whole
No,
lot of
I
anything.
hear it's classy.
And it was actually really cool. We tried so hard to find this one restaurant because we kept seeing billboards for it. And it was this place called Dirty Dick's.
Oh god.
And it was a seafood place. So their slogan was,
no.
I got crabs at Dirty Dick's. And I was like, I don't even like seafood. We need to eat there. And we could never find it. But we took a ferry to what's the Outer Banks area.
To dinner and a show.
And yeah. and it was a really cool area. We loved it a lot. We'd like to get back there at some point. South Carolina, though, very much a giant trailer park.
Okay, so
Like,
they're segregated. North Carolina is like ritzy.
Yeah, we
South
pulled into
Carolina
South
is-
Carolina like to get gas, and everyone is like staring at us because we have out of state plates, and there's like pregnant women smoking and talking. And
You don't belong around here, boy.
She took out her tooth and tried to bite you.
They're like, let's just get gas and go to the bathroom and get back on the road.
So that's a perfect segue to my question to you guys. With a lot of like,
If you could recast North Carolina, I would pick Rhode Island.
Yup.
Scrappy, I think they could do it.
Up and going.
I'll probably pick New Jersey.
Why? No one likes New Jersey.
Exactly. Just obviously, there's a whole lot of redoing of the same thing, revamping, remaking of the same subject matter. Like Star Wars is making the same stuff, keep kicking at the same thing. Like they're making another Mission Impossible movie with Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, which is fine.
Men in Black.
Men in Black, yeah. My question to you guys is there a really obscure fandom or a book or comic book, manga, TV show that no one really talks about that you would like to bring back and be like, hey, let's stop redoing the same thing. How about this old thing, or how about this new thing that we can totally revamp and pitch out to the world. And one of the things that I was thinking about, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, it's written by Brian Jacques, it's called Redwall, and it's fantastic. Basically take Lord of the Rings and take the plot points of Star Wars, mix it together, and make it all the characters animals.
But it's like the world of Narnia.
No, because it's not all magical. It's not all that magic, but in terms of talking animals, yes. And then there's kings and there's
Take Darth Vader, but you make him a panda.
well, yeah, basically, honestly,
That's
yes,
funny.
because there's like the very first Redwall book, and I would have DreamWorks kind of be producing this because How to Train Your Dragon is about to end. So
DreamWorks
this
has
would
some sick
But
animation.
isn't
People sleep on
Redwall
it.
pretty dark? Would you want it to be like kids' movie? Because
Yeah,
DreamWorks is going to make it like a kids' movie.
But that's the
Not
thing, is
necessarily.
that there's such a big fandom he has so many big works that there are books written for kids. There are certain books written for adults, and they can make TV shows out of it. They could do all these crazy things with it. Each animal has its own history. So like there's like a book all about badgers, and they basically go into like a Kratos like blood rage, and it's like sort of smashing things. It's really cool.
So they're
And
honey
then
badgers?
there's, like, yep, and then, exactly. And then there's like otters, and there's a whole history about otters, and they're like pirates, and so it's like a completely different tone. But you can have all these different TV shows on Nickelodeon. You can have all these different puppets at Build-A-Bear. You can do all these different things with it, and it can be like you said. There's adult. It definitely has adult themes to it, but you can also have kid themes to it. The animation can be amazing because they can definitely do all animals well. It's really fun. It's really fun subject matter that I think would be really cool.
So is each book specifically one animal, or is it multiple animals within?
Multiple
different-
animals
okay.
within one. But that's the thing. He has.
But they'll probably
And there's an
both
additional-
Redwall's like a Mouseketeer or something almost,
Yes,
right? He's
well,
like
there's-
a
Oh, Redwall is like a dude?
he's like a
It's a
mouse.
It's a mouse.
He has like a
it's not just like in the land of Redwall.
no. It's like a
No, there's a land.
But it's not like Redwall is like, don't go beyond the red wall.
No, I
Honey
think
badger.
Redwall is the name
He's
of a
the name
mouse
of a-
who like carries a sword or something, right?
No.
Am I totally wrong?
Yes. Redwall
You were
is
wrong entirely.
Redwall is basically an abbey. And that's the
Downton
first
Abbey?
book. Yeah, basically.
AKA
And
Redwall.
there's an abbot, kind of like the person who kind of runs the whole thing. He's really
Abbot.
cool. Hey, abbot! I hate that guy. And I would actually have the guy and he's the mentor to the main character, the main protagonist. And I would have him voiced by Jeremy Irons because he has a very worldly voice, a really kind of old school. I think he would really love this role. And he's
Jeremy
a
Irons
mentor.
could talk to me. He could talk me to sleep every night. He's soothing voice.
Because he's super boring?
Scar. Just let Scar talk to me
Just
every
like,
night.
Teach me lessons, please.
Yeah. For those who don't know, he's Scar in The Lion King. Probably that'd be your best voice reference.
And then there's the main protagonist. His name is Matthias. and he is going to become the abbot one day, and that's what he's in training for. He's an orphan, and that's kind of the thing. That's why the abbot kind of found him. He has
There's no orphans in fairy tales?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why it's a very Star Wars-esque, but they have large battles like Lord of the Rings, which is pretty cool.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But this is how it kind of all starts off, and I would have the little mouse who he becomes this big, huge. He kind of like has a Hiccup type of turn, where Hiccup was very shy and timid, but now he's the chieftain of the whole village. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that turn. So, which I love the choice of Hiccup, which was very weird, which I thought, I loved
not
him.
Who I would have chosen as the voice actor at all, but it works.
But he works. So I would go unconventional that way and give it to Michael Cera as the little mouse, because I think that it would be.
He would actually do really good.
I would
as the
say
mouse.
that would be so fucking weird, but I thought that in Lego Batman, and he did Robin just fine,
and it was awesome.
I was like, all right,
and he has.
I don't
a lot of
think of
experience
Michael
in that.
Cera when I'm hearing this.
And I think that he would be really cool as the main protagonist. He goes hunting for a major, big, grand sword that gives him the ability to kind of cut through almost anything, and it's really
adamantium.
Cool. Oh yeah, basically. And there's an evil horde on its way to kind of take over. There's a bunch of rats, and they try to like burrow underneath and try to get into the abbey.
That's terrifying.
But a big old badger boils water and dumps the water and boils the rats alive. There's all
Honey
these
badger don't care.
No, and it's awesome. It has all these different things, and there's a whole really kind of epic love triangle that happens with the main evil man who's called they call him Clooney.
George Clooney's gonna
George Clooney, yeah.
George Clooney.
Dressed up in his Batman costume.
Yes.
Rubber nips.
And actually, that's who I would want to voice as the.
Just because of the Clooney's, or
yeah, the Clooney's, because I thought at first I was like that would be corny, but his voice acting, Fantastic Mr. Fox was fantastic, and I would like to see if he can bring out menacing in his voice, and I think he would.
I think he could.
And I think that his role needs a lot of heart in it. He doesn't come across as just a straight evil villain. He has a lot of pathos in his storyline and everything like that. He has a son that he's trying to raise to kind of take over as the Horde one day, but he doesn't. But he treats him very harshly. His wife and mother dies throughout the story, and the son gets placed,
Spoilers.
and he actually escapes, and he comes back in the third book as a new villain, and it's like. And Matthias' son fights his son. So it's this beautiful long story where it's all intertwined with families.
You said there's 52 books?
There's 52 books.
God damn.
But
when did these come out?
He's been writing them for about 30 years.
Oh, shit.
And that's the thing is that they're all in one world, but they're not all connected. But what's cool is that there's like this abbot he's telling stories. So in Redwall he tells like this grand story of this sea pirate. But then like 10 years later he wrote that whole book about this little story about the sea pirate.
Oh.
So it's all one world that's kind of really.
So there's
fleshed out.
there'll be like whole books based on just like little footnote kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So it really fleshes out, and then there's a tapestry of beautiful things, and it's really
that actually sounds
really fun.
Super dope. I'm gonna have to check those out.
Yeah,
yes.
I've never heard of those.
Yeah,
I thought as soon as you were like, it's this great big thing. I was like, is this gonna be like Wheel of Time or something? Because I've heard of those books, and I haven't read any of those, but I've never even heard of Redwall. But
yeah. It's written by Brian Johns. It's definitely...
Kristen loves Redwall.
Really?
Yeah. She read it a lot when she was younger.
It was made into a cartoon TV series. They were trying to get it off, but they toned it down way too much. And that's the thing is that DreamWorks, I think they do darker things with lighter things very well.
Yeah, they could.
Because, they killed his dad in the second movie, but they handled it really well to where it was emotionally heavy, but... it wasn't overhanded.
Yeah.
And it kind of, and that's the kind of thing that it needs to kind of show those different type of elements.
Yeah. And DreamWorks animation is, I think, kind of underappreciated.
Mm. And I want to give them something new, because How to Train Your Dragon is about to end.
It's nice of you to give that to them. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. When you first thought it, or when you first said DreamWorks, I was thinking, my brain first went to Kung Fu Panda. And I was like, I'm not so sure, because it sounds like it's a little darker than that, but... How to Train Your Dragon has some darker moments, and they do it tastefully.
DreamWorks did make Shrek, so
it can be a little subtly adult.
You can easily make it a little more vulgar and everything else in between.
And there's also a really cool scene. This is why I really wanted to make it into a movie as well. but the evil Clooney, he gets betrayed by one of his lieutenants, or he doesn't really get betrayed. He like basically fails on his mission, and his wife dies on that mission. So he takes rabbits because there's rabbits there, and they're super strong, and they basically tie ropes on each of his appendages and just rip them apart.
Oh shit!
And it's awesome. You're just like, what just happened? Like you just reread.
Did those bunnies just murder a guy?
Yeah, and you're just like, oh my gosh, and it's
that sounds like a hairy situation.
But
Insert
sound effect
here.
I'm upset for even laughing at that.
That sounds.
Does anybody else have a really random?
I was going to say Redwall, but you said it, so
Stole my idea. We were all going to say
all four of us. Yeah,
all of us.
We were all
Yep.
on the same page. Oh, actually, so I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about obscure like TV shows, right? Like cartoon shows that I grew up watching.
Yo, that's what I've been thinking too.
At first, I was thinking Chalk Zone. I don't know if you remember that show on Nickelodeon. Most of you probably don't. It's all right. But then, doing a little bit of research, My Life as a Teenage Robot. Did you ever watch that show on Nickelodeon?
I remember seeing it.
So it was like this,
but I did
this
not
girl, and her name was Jenny, and she was like a robot, and she had like powers and like fought crime.
Was she a teenage robot?
She was a teenage robot.
Whoa.
And so basically, it was her growing up like through
coming.
high school, and she had like I think she had like 2 brothers or 2 friends and stuff like that. But I feel like that would be pretty applicable in 2018 of having a robotic lead protagonist character who kicks butt, especially with like all like the Wonder Womans and the Captain Marvels of the world and stuff like that. Like this would be kind of a cool way in 2018 to have another female empowered superhero. Granted, she's a robot, but like she still has all the same emotions like a normal person would in everyday life.
And she's a teenager. She's got to deal with robot periods, robot acne.
That's an oil leak.
I think she did actually have oil leaks in the TV show, if I remember right, which is funny. And now it's weird now.
You're like, I'm just now getting.
When I was like 11, I was like,
yeah, they get
oil leaks.
that.
Yeah, now that's weird. All right, but no, I think it'd be pretty cool. I don't really have a lot of character actors in mind or anything like that, but I just think it'd be kind of a cool throwback to bring into 2018 or 2019 going forward.
Yeah, I can dig it. That's pretty cool.
Me?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So I'm in the same lane as Will here, where I went book. When I was first posed the question, my immediate thought was, okay, what sort of obscure or not as well known comic book or something could I go with? And I was thinking different comic books, and I was thinking of different cartoons, and then I thought, well, there's a series of books, I think there's about 3 or 4 of them now, that I've wanted to see turn into a movie forever, and they've never done them. It's one of those things where years ago the author had mentioned that some company had bought the rights to the book to make it a film, and there's just been no progress on it since then. So it's just been kind of stagnated, and it drives me nuts because it would be really awesome. But the author is Blake Crouch, which may sound familiar to some people. He's done other stuff that has actually gotten kind of some notoriety. Like I never watched it, but did anybody see that show Wayward Pines? Mm-hmm. That's based on like some of his books. I think they're doing a movie or another show based on another one of his books. I think like Dark Matter maybe. He's done a few things that I didn't even realize were from him because I've only read these certain books. But the first book in the series is called Desert Places. And this is one of those books where I just found it by accident, which are usually always the best ones. And I was like, okay, I'll check this out. And it's the storyline of the first book is there's this guy who is an author, and he lives in North Carolina. Hey, full circle.
Oh, it comes around.
And
but not a trailer park.
No.
Okay.
And he's like, at home, and he's working on his new book, whatever, he's going about his day-to-day. And he goes and checks his mail, and there's an unmarked, envelope in there, and he's like, okay, creepy fan letter, whatever. Opens it up, and it's basically like a ransom note, and it's like, oh, hi, just so you know, there's a body buried on your property, and if you don't call this phone number within, 2 days, I'm going to go to the police, I'm going to tell them exactly where the body's buried, and I'm going to tell them where the murder weapon is, because you may have noticed there's a knife missing from your knife block in your kitchen. And so he's like, okay, well, what the fuck? Thinks it's like some sort of creepy fan thing, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, there's instructions in there, like, if you follow this path, you'll find where the body is, and it's marked with a marker flag, and he finds it, and sure enough, yep, there's a teacher that's been missing or whatever, and it's, she's been murdered and buried in a shallow grave on his property, and there's a phone number, in her pocket. He calls the number and gives him further instructions, and he has to go to this, tell no one where you're going, tell no one what you're doing, just up and leave. He has to go to some seedy hotel.
Mm-hmm.
He's at this hotel, waiting for further instructions. Wakes up in the middle of the night, realizes that the door to the hotel room is open. He sees someone crouched on the floor, and then he gets injected with something. He passes out. Comes to, he's in the middle of fucking nowhere in some cabin, and he's locked in this room, and someone's just giving him things through a slit in the door that's just here's food, read these books. Before I tell you who I am or what's going on, you need to know what's happening. And he's just giving him all these random things that don't really seem to have anything to do with anything, don't really make any sense, but obviously the guy's got some sort of plan. And then the big reveal is at some point in his time there, he looks outside because he hears screaming coming from outside, and there's a shed outside. Sees some lady tied up running out of the shed. Guy comes out, kills her, drags her back in there, sees who he is from a distance, and it's the guy's twin brother that he hasn't seen in 20 years. And it turns out that when they were kids, some stuff happened, and he went on to become a successful author. The other guy was a teacher, but he's always had this dark side, and he's just been killing people randomly over the years. He has this little cabin in the middle of nowhere in the Dakotas, and it's just surrounded by nothingness, and he's like, I'm gonna make you like me. You have this in you too. I'm gonna turn you to the dark side. And makes him play along with this stuff. And there's all kinds of messed up stuff where they pick up not hitchhikers, but he pretends that his car's broke down, and he's got the hood up, and underneath the hood of the car he's got a lawnmower blade. And some redneck guys come up, and they're giving him shit, and he's like, oh yeah, I can't figure out what's going on. They look in there, and he slams it down and cuts their heads off.
It sounds almost like a
Bro, you going dark.
Tarantino,
Is
that who you're gonna cast?
Dark.
Tarantino?
No, but they're dark, and there's a series of them. There's Desert Places. The second book's called Locked Doors, and that goes into kind of a side character that's just kind of mentioned in the first book. That's his evil twin brother. It's his protege. And he's if anything happens to me, this guy is gonna take information, and it kind of follows him. And there's a few other books. I haven't even read the last few of them because I didn't even know that they had come out. But it's one of those books that, and it's a pretty short book, but it's one of those ones where when I started reading it, I couldn't put it down. I hated having to stop reading it for any reason. And I've read it.
Books like that.
I've reread it probably 5 or 6 times. It's one of those books I reread at least once every couple of years. And I would love to see a movie of it because the visuals are just so striking, and they've never done it. And I just thought that would be a great one. And
it's our next project. Let's make it ourselves.
Okay.
But
how is it?
I don't want to do special effects. You just literally, we're going to do that thing with the
lawnmower. How is this
lawnmower.
multiple books? It seems like a one kind of book thing. How does it?
It's the way that one, and spoiler alert, for everybody. Because it's not really a spoiler that you find out, it's his evil twin, which sounds stupid that it's evil twin brother, but there's a whole lot going on in there, and it really breaks down why the guy is the way that he is. And in the first one, they get away, and there's a female FBI agent that somehow gets involved in kind of gets brought up in the case, and they end up getting away from from the brother, but then there's still the threat of, you know, his protege. And so they go into hiding, and then that's the whole second book is like they're in hiding in like the Yukon wilderness, like out in the middle of nowhere in a cabin, like grows a beard, changes his name, like they only leave to like get supplies and come back, and that's it.
Breaking Bad.
And somehow never seen it, so I don't know.
So there's like lingering issues.
Yeah,
in, like,
there's
each
lingering
book.
issues, and then like in that one, it's like this, you know, this guy is the antagonist, and then at the end, it's very like unsure, like did they get away? Is he still out? We don't know. And then the third book goes from there. There's
Nice.
and then they bring in other
Yeah.
characters and stuff, and then I think like he even started working with another author who brought in like characters from his book and kind of crossed them over. So then it was like this crossover event sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And they were really, really good. And I had a hard time thinking of like who to cast, because I'm like, you have to have someone that can, because it's basically only a couple of characters in the whole storyline in the first, you know, book at least, and you got to have someone that can carry the weight of an entire movie that's basically just them, but that can also play against themselves, because you'd have to play two characters.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, who could really do that?
I know a guy who can play like 19 or 32.
That's why I'm going Eddie Murphy.
Oh,
No.
Nutty Professor.
He's just gonna be in a fat suit the whole time. No. So my thought
Norbit
was Sam Rockwell,
Oh, okay.
because Sam Rockwell is a guy that he can do.
Moon's fantastic.
He's got a wide, you know, range of skills. He's got range.
Guy.
He can be,
Guy Fleegman.
He can be the, you know,
Crew member number 5.
crewman number 6, bro.
Sorry, my bad.
Because he can be, you know, the kind of, he can have like, you know, that kind of suave quality, you know, because he's supposed to be kind of this like, you know, playboy author and stuff. But he can also pull off the like kind of charming creepiness that, you know, the evil brother would have. And
Like in Green Mile?
yeah, and that was my thought. Like, you know, in Green Mile, he was very calculated and creepy, and he could do that really well. And obviously, in what was that movie? Was it Moon? Where it was like just him, like the entire movie, and obviously he carried you know, that on his shoulders well. So I think he could do that really well. And then as far as the his protege, who you only see a little bit of in the first one, but then he carries on to the next ones. Another guy who's also creepy on a whole other level, but I thought Ben Foster. Ben Foster, again, a very kind of underutilized actor who can play the serious and the creepy very well. And as far as director, because the books are kind of a slow burn, I was like, well, who would be good to handle something like that? And I thought of Fargo, and the directors who did Fargo, which were, I think, Joel and Ethan Coen. And I thought they would handle that really well, because it's not a.
Is it funny?
It's, I mean, there's like, you know, moments here and there, like before it gets really dark, where there's just like, you know,
Dark
little,
humor.
but it's very just heavy and hard hitting, and it's.
I don't know why, but
You
like
should do Ridley Scott then.
the whole time you were explaining the main character, I kept thinking of Ryan Phillippe, and like, and here's why. So I'm thinking
I
like,
forget he exists.
I'm thinking like Lincoln Lawyer, like him being like the creepy little brat that he is, like in that movie and stuff like that. And then have you watched the TV show Shooter? Have you watched that at all?
No, but I like the movie.
Yeah, so it's based off the movie.
Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark.
And it's like he's like a
Say hi to your mom.
he's like a vet. He's like a vet, isn't he? Like in
Yeah, he
Works
he's-
with animals?
Yeah, he's a
veteran. Yeah.
veteran. Yeah.
But I don't know why, but like that combination of all the stuff just made me think of Ryan Phillippe.
That was the hardest thing I had with casting, was finding someone that was like, because I would think of people, but I was like, now they're too young,
Yeah.
or they're too old. Like finding someone in that right age, that sweet spot was the tricky part.
Hey, circling back, you guys went pretty dramatic on mine. superheroes are quite a thing, obviously, lately.
They are.
But so is drama. I want to do a superhero comedy. Because there's not a lot of that.
That's every Marvel movie.
Shut up, that's not comedies. They have comedy moments.
They have jokes.
They have
They're
jokes.
not comedy.
This is a
My
comedy.
Super Ex-Girlfriend, that's a superhero comedy.
I want them to redo 90s television show Freakazoid.
Hit it.
Boom. You know Freakazoid?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Freakazoid.
Freakazoid.
Copyright.
Runs around in underwear. Yep. Anyways,
Happy little narwhal.
for those of you who haven't seen it or heard it, you should check it out. It's very short, like 2 seasons. It didn't last long.
Oh, yeah, I
made
guess
by
it
Steven Spielberg, actually.
Back when he
and
was
they
just
didn't
cranking
know
out
what
the
they were going to
cartoons.
do, so he just pumped out like weird. That they just made stuff up on the spot. And he's a kid who it's all just the premise is just dumb. It's like a 16-year-old kid named Dexter, and he gets like a supercomputer chip, and like lightning hits his house when he's like going to use it, and he like gets zapped into his computer. He like
Standard
knows
origin.
the internet or something,
Sex
which
up
made
internet,
him
it's me,
insane.
Dexter.
But his powers are like somewhere between the Flash and like Superman. He has just like
Pretty much,
everything.
yeah.
He turns blue when he's kind of like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He's a 16-year-old
I
kid.
He had an alternate ego.
Yeah, he's like a 16-year-old kid, and he like freaks in and freaks out to turn in and out of Freakazoid.
I forgot about
And he
that.
gets hit by lightning, and he's just crazy. Just totally makes no sense. Like, he'll stop bad guys by just going on like random rants about how he hates teenagers or something, and distract him, and that'll be the end. Like, it's just.
It's very similar to The Mask.
Yeah, it's very similar to The Mask in that respect, where it's off the wall zany.
Zany is a very
just
good way.
Zany, just
It's literally Animaniacs, but as like one.
but as like a
superhero.
superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Animaniacs
Pretty
is one superhero. It's pretty accurate.
Live action.
It would
or
have.
cartoon?
I think actually, it would love to see it live action. It'd be hard to do right.
Yeah.
But if you did it right, it'd be great. And I think with the right director, you can make that comedy translate more, because it would need to be more about the comedy than about the superhero.
For sure.
Because the superhero part is honestly just kind of the backdrop. The comedy is more what it's about.
Yeah.
And I really think Judd Apatow could do that justice. Judd Apatow doing a comedy superhero character
see that.
would be great. I would love to see that.
I could see Kevin Smith doing it too.
Kevin Smith could probably do it
Yeah.
with some good comedy as well
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I agree.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
That would be either one. But just
Who would you cast as Freakazoid?
oh, that's a hard question, man. It'd have to be I don't know someone crazy.
Comeback role.
Recommend it? No, I don't think he
age
could do
Jim
it.
Carrey.
He's got to be right. He'd have to be like
He'll do it.
younger. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's a 16-year-old kid, and then he looks to be about like
So
30.
you'd have to cast someone who's
when
like
he-
30.
Well, when you probably do two different people really, but when he's
Shazam style.
yeah,
Yeah.
but when he's Freakazoid, he looks to be about like 30. But I don't really know. Recommendations?
I would go unknown.
Back in,
Unknown
back in the
could be
day, I would have said, I mean, Jim Carrey would have been perfect. And it was obviously an inspiration there.
Yeah, I
Um,
can see that to an extent.
But nowadays...
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I could go with unknown. I'd almost love to get the original voice actor to come back.
Have you seen Shameless or the new Gotham TV show?
Oh, are you talking Jerome?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he would do it. He could do it.
The ginger kid?
Yeah.
He
That
can
guy
sing.
has range.
That's
bro.
what I'm saying. He could do the range. He looks young.
I think he is a ginger kid too.
Yeah, he is.
No, I mean I think that
And Freakazoid.
and
I think
Freakazoid.
Freakazoid is a ginger kid
that's
as
what I was
well.
thinking.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't
what I
even
was
think
thinking.
about
Like, if not an unknown, who?
Yeah. He could do it.
that. Could
be dope.
That could be done.
I like it.
Love it.
Want some more
of it? I'm not continuing on with that song. That was good enough.
So how are we gonna end that?
It's the end of segment.
Yeah, we should probably do an ending here. All right, guys. See you next week. Have a good time. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Love, peace, chicken grease.
Hey.
Huh?
How should we end that?
I think we should all.
How should we end that?